Okay, so we've been going over the special triangles. We know already about the 30, 60, 90 triangle and the trick to find that. And can somebody just tell us one of our memory devices that we can use to remember that? Go ahead, Lauren, what was it?
1, 2, square root of 3.
Yep. Okay, so has everyone been able to sign in? Yes? Okay, so I want you guys to hold on to your homework for the evening. The homework that we went over last night, just hold on to that till Tuesday and we'll go over it then. And so I want to start off by talking about the 45, 45, 90 triangles. You guys had a problem in the investigation that you were able to figure out the trick. Can anyone tell me what it was? Do we remember doing that problem? It was in the investigation homework that we had this week, but we can go over it together as a class. So a 45, 45 triangle means that we'll have a isosceles triangle, and with an isosceles triangle we know that two sides have to be the same length. And so when we apply that principle, so we have our 45, 45, 90, and we have the two sides which are going to equal x, and we know that it's a right triangle, so we can apply the Pythagorean theorem over here. And when we go through that, you'll see that we have our leg, so this could almost be our A, and this can be our B, if you want to think about it like that. So that's what they did. They have c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, and then they plugged in the two x's because those are the measures for our a and our b. And what happens is we get 2x squared is equal to c squared. So if we're trying to solve for c, the hypotenuse, we know that to undo a square, we have to take the square root, right? So we took our square roots here, and we'll get c is equal to the square root of 2 times the square root of x squared. But what's the square root of x squared? Go ahead, Kyle.
X.
Just x. So that's why our x comes out front of the square root sign, because we know that 2 is as simplified as it can get. So that's why we know that c is equal to x times the square root of 2. So that's our trick when we're doing a 45, 45, 90. We know that since the two sides are the same, our hypotenuse c will always equal x times the square root of 2. Does that make sense? Good? Okay, and so if you just look at the bottom, the theorem says for a 45, 45, 90 triangle, the length of the hypotenuse is the length of the leg times the square root of 2. Pretty much what we just went over. And so here's an example of, if you guys look at your screen, of finding the lengths of a 45, 45, 90. And they tell us that the legs are equal to 8 inches. So our hypotenuse really quick would be what? Mackenzie?
16.
If our legs are 8, and we know that the trick is, going back to the previous slide, we know the trick is a leg times the square root of 2. What do we know that the hypotenuse is here?
8
Good.
times the square root of 2.
There you go. So at this point you can just stop and we can just do 8 times the square root of 2. But if we wanted to approximate using a calculator, we would get 11.3 inches for our hypotenuse. Does that make sense, everybody? Yeah? Okay. So go to the exercise pages on your worksheet. And you guys can note really quick that we're not going to do the open-ended question 6, so you can cross that one off on the bottom. Okay, so does this all appear on everyone's iPad? Yes. Okay, so go ahead and solve this problem on your own on the iPad, and it says a baseball diamond is a square. The distance from any base to the next base is 90 feet. How far is it from home plate to second base? And if we were using calculators, we would be able to approximate to the decimal, but you guys can just leave it with the radical in the answer. And then make sure that you send it at the bottom of the screen. Is that working? Oh, if you guys are having trouble seeing it, make sure that you hit the X at the top to exit out of if it says like get the app.
I'm trying to get it here. Yes, it's close.
Yeah, it's ZUFLH. Is it off or is it on?
Thank you.
If you guys are having trouble with the orient, make sure that you're exit out of the screen that says on the app or go to the website. They probably don't hit that X button. You see it right there. Yep. There you go.
Wait, where do you want us to put our answer? Just
Anywhere on the screen is fine, yeah. Okay, so if we want to look at Lauren's up here. Lauren said that the square root, or the distance from home plate to second base when we form our triangle is going to be 90 times the square root of 2. And as I'm looking at everyone else's, I'm seeing that everyone else has pretty much the same thing. We want to look at Reese's real quick. His also says 90 times the square root of 2. Just make sure that 90 times the square root of 2 is going to be this distance right here, which is our hypotenuse. And if you look at the exercise worksheet, that is actually number 4. So we did that one together. Now, sometimes we're not going to be given a pretty triangle when they give us the sides for us, but if they're giving us, when they give us a triangle and they let us know that the angle measure is 45, we know that these two lengths right here, our two legs, are going to be the same distance or the same length. So, does anyone remember from yesterday unlike radicals and like radicals? Yes. Okay, so our goal is we know from our theorem that when we have a 45, 45, 90, that our C, our hypotenuse, is equal to the side length S times the square root of 2. So what we want to do, our goal, is to see if we can find a like radical of the square root of 2 with 128. So go ahead and see if you guys can simplify 128 and see if we can get like radicals to figure out the lengths of our triangle. So we should be getting pretty good at this, going through our perfect squares. Yeah, we're just finding edges through one.
Alright. Back to normal. That's on alcohol, going on Sunday, that's sick.
Guys, make sure that I'm looking at some of your answers. Make sure that we're simplifying all the way down. I'm seeing a lot of perfect squares still in your answers that you guys can simplify.
Did I get a question?
Yeah, Lauren, you got it.
Wait.
We're gonna move into these.
I thought it was You're going to geometry. I know I have a six square, but like,
Rodrigo, can you share with me your answer?
For the side.
Yeah, what did you get as the side blank? Hey guys.
8.
And what did you break your it into?
128.
Yeah, what did you break 120? What's the split?
64 and 2.
A lot of you guys stopped at 32. You can pull out that, but make sure that 32 you can split into 4 and 8, and 4 is still a perfect square. So I saw a lot of people doing that. But if you can see, Rodrigo split it into 64, which is the biggest perfect square you can find in there, and 2. And we know that the square root of 64 is going to go to 8. And the square root of 2 is as simplified as it's going to be. But that means that the square root of 8 times the square root of 2 is similar to our c is equal to the side length s times the square root of 2. So we know that our side length is going to be 8. That one's not on the worksheet, but if you want to jot that down as an example, that would be something that you guys could study from. Does anybody have any questions on that one? Okay, so for homework this evening, I'd like if you guys could finish the worksheet. There's only a handful of exercises, both on the back and the front of the page. Write out all of your work. The back page is going over the 30, 60, 90 triangles, but we've had a lot of practice throughout the week on those, so I didn't feel necessary to go over those again. The other thing that I want to remind you about is our test is coming up on Thursday of next week, so we should be going through our packet and doing those problems, practicing. If you feel okay with just doing like 5 or 6 from each page, if you feel good, move on. If not, spend more time with it. And I also created review videos from all the sections in the Big Green Book. So if you need extra practice from now until the test, these links are available on Mr. Catone's website. And you can just scroll down to the bottom, click on whatever you guys need. And if you have any more questions, make sure that you guys know I'm available during 9 and 10 and during home base. And just in case, have you
It's
guys...
like what Wiccan said. No, except he didn't say that, but you would know that we will read book. I wouldn't dance like I had book. I didn't look except the vampire was. You want to change the world? You gotta know about it. What if Shakespeare didn't go to school? His plays would be even more confusing. Too big or not too big? Is that the question? I don't know what question it is. I didn't go to school. Anybody? Help me out here. I got a question for you. What are you teaching the world? How to be boring? How to make the world sad? No, you're not. You're teaching the world what it looks like to be awesome. No matter who you are, somebody's learning from you. Everybody's a teacher and everybody's a student. Look for the awesome.
I just wanted to share that with you guys. That's what has anyone heard of him, the kid president? Yeah, have you guys seen videos from him before? I don't know, I just thought that was funny. But you guys have about 4 minutes if you want to get started on your homework. You guys can go ahead.
Listen, just a reminder too, everything from that review package you're planning on doing should be done with the exception 11.5 by the time we see you again on Tuesday.
Fancy.
Yes, first period.
How weird did it work? But we're actually ready all of them. Can we do this? Are we still doing this online?
No.
Yes, please.
Reminder two, homework. We're never on the worksheet, right? That's problem show work, except sheet line paper, just like a regular. That's a copy out of the book. It's $5.98, $5.99 in your degree book.